All right, let's talk about a poem you probably think you know. It's one of the most famous in the English language, written by William Carlos Williams, just 16 words long. But today we're going to crack it open and look at it in a way that I promise you have never seen before. Let's just start by reading it through.
It starts like this. So much depends upon a red wheelbarrow, glazed with rain, water, and it finishes beside the white chickens. And that's it. That's the whole thing. 16 little words.
So, what's your first impression? For most of us, it's just a nice little farm scene, right? It feels like a quiet, peaceful postcard. A red wheelbarrow, a little rain, some chickens. It's pretty, for sure, but you might be wondering, what's the big deal? And that's the normal way to read it. But here's the twist. What if that reading isn't just wrong, it's the opposite of the poem's true purpose? What if this tiny little thing isn't meant to be calming at all? What if it's actually a philosophical bomb designed to completely detonate our view of the world?
Now, to get our heads around this, we have to introduce a pretty wild term that the source material uses to describe this poem. It calls it an act of ontological terrorism, a silent takeover, a coup against the way we perceive reality itself. I know, that sounds incredibly intense for a poem about a wheelbarrow, but just stick with me.
So what on earth is ontological terrorism? Well, think of it like this. It's any act, in this case a work of art, that just pulls the rug out from under our sense of what's real. And it does that by showing us how fragile our human-first worldview actually is. It elevates everyday things, non-human objects, to our level, or maybe even higher. And this is so crucial to understanding where this idea comes from. William Carlos Williams wasn't some academic sitting in an ivory tower. He was a working doctor, a pediatrician, in gritty industrial New Jersey. He saw human fragility up close, every single day. Birth, sickness, death. And he realized that our entire civilization wasn't really held together by big ideas, but by simple, boring, unglamorous tools, just like that wrench.
And his perspective, seeing the deep importance of simple things in the middle of all this human chaos, it connects directly to a modern philosophy called object-oriented ontology. And at its heart, it's just a way of seeing the world that finally knocks humans off the center stage. Let's see how the poem actually does that.
This quote from the source material just nails it. The poem's big move is a silent coup because it withdraws the human gaze. I mean, think about it. Are there any people in the poem? Nope. It shows us a scene that is totally complete without us. The objects themselves are the main characters now.
Okay, let's put these two worldviews side by side. On the one hand, you have the normal human-centered view. A wheelbarrow exists for us. Its value is all about what it can do for us. We're the heroes of the story. But in the object-oriented view, the wheelbarrow just is. It has its own existence, its own reality that has nothing to do with us. And suddenly, we're just another object in the scene.
So how does this tiny poem pull off such a huge philosophical heist? It happens in 3 sneaky steps. First, there's the confession. That line, "so much depends upon," isn't a celebration of our power, it's an admission of our weakness, our dependency. Second, the demotion. We, the human reader, are knocked off our pedestal. We're now on the same level as the wheelbarrow, the same level as the chickens. And third, the withdrawal. The objects pull back into their own world, a world that couldn't care less whether we're watching or not.
Okay, this is a really cool thought experiment, but so what? What are the real-world stakes here? What actually happens if you start looking at the world this way? Well, it turns out this perspective, it might just be capitalism's absolute worst nightmare.
And let me ask you this directly. I'm serious. What if you actually tried to live by this poem's logic for just one day? What do you think would happen to you?
Well, the results would be immediate and catastrophic from a certain point of view. You'd have to stop overlooking everything. You'd have to pause and acknowledge the quiet work of every single tool, every object holding your world together. Your productivity, it would absolutely crater. To the economic system, you would become totally useless. And by becoming useless, you might just become dangerous.
Now, if this sounds a little too abstract, just think back a couple of years. We all lived through a real-world version of this poem. Remember when global supply chains just broke? And we started seeing empty shelves in the grocery stores? For the first time in most of our lives, we were forced to see just how much depends on the most boring, overlooked objects. This poem was warning us about that 100 years ago. And that brings us to the final, and honestly, the most mind-bending part of this whole thing. The idea that this poem isn't just a critique of the now, but a prophecy of what's to come. a post-human prophecy that says the poem is already done with us.
This is what the source material calls the forbidden interpretation. And it asks a truly radical question. What if this poem wasn't written for us at all? What if a human didn't write it for other humans to read and analyze? What if it's a message from the non-human world itself? A direct transcription of object-level perception, a reality that we are only now, maybe, just beginning to develop the tools to understand. It's not a poem about the wheelbarrow, it's a message from the wheelbarrow's world.
Think about it this way. The poem already exists in a future where we are gone. A future where that wheelbarrow and those chickens are still there, existing long after our stories, our languages, our entire civilization has turned to dust. The poem is already in that future, waiting. And that's the real gut punch. The poem isn't really with us anymore. It has already left us behind. It has abandoned us for that future world, the world of things.
And that brings us right back to the beginning. But everything has changed. That opening line, "so much depends upon," isn't a simple statement anymore. It's a challenge, pointed directly at us. So much depends upon, not the wheelbarrow, but upon everything that we, in our frantic, human-centered world, simply refuse to see. So, what are you refusing to see?